Were you recording?
I was. I definitely got no my cheese. So with that, fuck yes and welcome to After the Hype. I want my no my cheese in there. We are definitely starting with no my cheese.
The fridge or it's gonna get weird and sweaty.
You must
With
know
your host,
cheese.
as always, Bryan Dressel. With me is
Save my cheese.
Jonathan Hardesty,
I died again.
Emily Blake,
Oh, this is going great.
and Chewie Darsow.
Who's going to rescue her cheese before it gets sweaty?
Oh, I hope this isn't your first time listening to this podcast.
That's a hell of an opening.
I like sweaty cheese.
Nobody likes sweaty cheese.
I'm gonna get that on a T-shirt, and no one will understand it.
Oh boy! Special guest this week. We have Elvis Kunish here.
Hello, how we doing?
Better now.
Yeah, better.
now that we've acquired the cheese.
That was the saddest no my cheese of all time.
No, it was so genuine.
It really was.
I was saving it for the last because it's the most. Everyone loves string cheese. It's delicious.
You eat it wrong though.
What did she just take up giant
Like
bites?
a
Oh yeah,
like a
she
hot
just-
dog?
No,
just-
when I have the time, I will do the meticulous cutting it into pieces.
Ain't nobody got
thing.
time for the
Cutting it.
meticulous.
I just don't like the
Pulling
way
it
it feels
apart.
on your fingers. You have to wash your hands
Yeah, it gets
afterwards.
on your
Oh yeah, it
fingernails.
really gets
Ugh.
under your
Well, no
fingernails.
good.
Yeah, when you peel it, it's like, why is it hairy?
Yeah.
Hairy cheese.
Oh boy! So welcome to Cheesecast.
I mean,
With
there's
their
probably
host
a market-
is always Gouda.
I'm sure there's a market for that.
Gouda to be here.
All right. Getting serious,
Favorite actress,
guys.
Alison Brie.
Oh my god, I can't even bear this guy.
Oh God. Okay.
Maybe we should do that after the cheese.
This has gone out. This has gone off the
Well, you just
rails.
gave me an idea for a podcast. Actually.
Just a cheese podcast.
It's cheesy.
People would listen. Most
You make it
people
like the
cheese.
delicious dish, but about cheese.
Yeah.
We're just gonna keep moving. So today's
You
episode,
started it.
I did. I was.
You threw her cheese.
I still feel like that was the right choice. So we'll do a where have you been doing before we get into today's movie. Today's movie, by the way, is Disaster Artist,
How do you
which
think
I think
Tommy
is.
Wiseau eats his string cheese?
How does
He licks
Tommy?
it.
Yeah, I bet
He just licks it.
How many licks does it take to the center of a cheese stick
Tommy Wiseau.
with Tommy Wiseau? That would be amazing. So
I'm disgusted.
I mean, that's kind of how you are with Tommy Wiseau. It's like I'm entertained and completely disgusted. All right, so for a where have you been doing? I watched a little animated film that's been getting a lot of very good press for DC called Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay. I did not really expect much from it because DC has been doing this thing lately where they decide, let's make all of our animated films R-rated, which is cool because it means they're not holding back anything, but kind of sad because that's how they've been getting a lot of younger fans, because all the younger fans go to the Marvel movies and rent the DC movies, especially the animated ones, at home. And now that they're going for a much older audience, it feels like they're kind of leaving the younger people behind, which is kind of too bad. That said, this was actually a pretty decent movie. I enjoyed it. It was fun. They had Christian Slater as Deadshot, and he's been doing it in their videos for a while, and he's really good. They have the girl who's pretty much taken over for, I regretfully forget her name, the girl who used to do Harley Quinn. They had the new girl who's been doing it for pretty much everywhere, and she's phenomenal. She has like 450 voice credits on IMDb. She's amazing. And the story itself was really interesting. It was basically about Dr. Fate has a card that gets you out of hell when you die. And somebody found out about that card, and everyone wants it, specifically Amanda Waller, because Amanda Waller's convinced that when she dies, she'll go to hell because she absolutely would. And it's all about...
She's not a very nice person.
She's awful. She's totally awful, and I that's why I love her character. But like the movie is all about like reverse flash or zoom in this, the Suicide Squad, and what's his name from Legends of Tomorrow?
Oh, damn it.
Vandal Savage.
Yeah.
All trying to get the card at the same time, and it's surprisingly entertaining and really funny and very dramatic and violent as hell.
And
which
Batman uses a gun.
oh yeah, Batman shoots
For all
a
you
dude in the
people who
head.
like to talk about how Batman never uses a gun, he does.
He does sometimes. It happens.
When does the demonic hairpiece come into play?
The demonic hair piece.
Yeah. Hell to pay.
Oh,
Oh, is it going to be that? Are we doing puns today?
We started with the cheese.
I know. I was hoping that was the end of it.
Our dad audience grew tenfold.
Oh my god.
We actually do have
For-
more dads now. There's
for
like
a
like
moment-
50% more dad.
It's just waving off. I can't help it.
More dads per podcast
Or-
minute. You can put that on the back of our DVD box.
A really nice, Brian can cut this out later if he wants to moment, we were going at the grocery store last night, and Brian had a huge dad moment because we were in the soda aisle, and he kept looking at these off-brand sodas and how they're trying to sell themselves by having puns on them. And then
Root beer was the root of all fun.
No.
How do you not buy that bottle of root beer?
Honey, no, we're buying better root beer. I do appreciate the pun, but no.
All right,
Yes.
that's it for
Counterpoint.
Stand your
Yes.
ground on that one.
What was the grape soda pun?
it's grape. Like it's great. It's grape.
See, that,
They really, really
that was
pushed
the last one on the
themselves.
list,
That's
and they
genius.
it was the last one on the list, and they had no
Yeah.
time.
The cola one was just like it's cola e cola. It's like really they didn't try that.
Oh, no.
It was awful.
It's E.
That's
coli.
what's killing everybody right now.
That would have been better. It's E. cola.
It'll spread around your apartment.
It's from Arizona.
All right, that's it for Suicide Squad Hell to Pay. Chewie, where have you been doing?
God, I really haven't watched much new stuff lately. I'll just talk about the rise and fall of emotions the past few days about Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh, I thought you were just
yeah.
going to be like, pregnancy was your...
What have I been doing? I've been fucking pregnant.
Well, I have been fucking pregnant, which is why I haven't... Sitting down to actually watch things right now itself feels like a chore. It's like going to movies sounds awful because every time we go I have to bring a pillow now, and it's still uncomfortable in whatever chair we're sitting in, and be like so in the apartment, and whenever we're watching something I have to get up and walk around at some point.
So a review
But-
of pregnancy is
Yeah.
not great.
It's uncomfortable, especially in third trimester. But Brooklyn Nine-Nine I have talked about before and how much I love it, and that Fox announced that they were canceling it, which we all thought was going to happen, but there was still, that hope that they wouldn't do it, and then everyone's just circulating going, no! But I've never seen so many people react to it on my Facebook before. I'm like, honestly, I didn't think I knew that many other people that loved the show.
so good.
And then everyone's like, maybe Hulu, maybe Netflix, maybe this, maybe that, and they all start going, no. And then last night, while we're watching one of the other movies that we're going to be talking about, NBC, guys, picked it up.
Because they shoot on the Universal lot, don't they?
No, they
Oh, they
shoot
don't.
it at CBS Radford.
Oh, okay.
They did shoot it.
But
so
MBS, I thought MBS.
It's distributed by Universal, I believe.
okay.
That's what, Brian, you told
National
me.
Broadcasting System.
Or something. But Universal, NBC, same thing, along with Comcast. So who knows? Maybe they're going to be going over to my lot, and then I'll be able to, see
my
them walk
God.
around later.
That would be awesome.
I mean,
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me if they just leave it where it's at, though.
CBS.
Yeah, I mean, if they're already not on a Fox lot, like they'd probably
They'd have to rebuild the set.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that they sold it so fast, partly because they didn't want to have to knock down sets and rebuild them. So the idea of them moving lots, I think, would be strange.
Maybe,
might
maybe
happen,
not.
but-
I don't know. I've walked by their storage area at the Universal Assets building quite a few times, and so their stuff is spread out a little bit. It's
mean,
not all at CBS.
I'm
Radford.
sure they're all talking about it this weekend and
Yeah,
figuring it all
shit out.
Yeah.
And then seeing which cast members actually want to stay, because I heard some people were actually thinking about moving on. So
I can't believe that a show that was really good was on Fox for that long.
I mean,
It is kind of surprising they left it for all five.
Yeah.
Fox used to be one of the most progressive networks, which was really odd for back in, for what we think of Fox these days. But in the 90s, they had a lot of progressive shows, and they
For
kind of
one season. Like, they were progressively aggressive. Like, yeah, we have this wonderful show. Nobody's watching it. We're canceling it. We're
They'll
getting another.
buy amazing material,
But even
take it
s-
off the market for everyone else,
Even so-
and then not support it.
They
Yeah.
just moved all their progressive stuff over to FX, which is still Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or FXX.
So they're still doing it. It's just they try to mask it so their conservative people don't really, tie the things together.
Yeah. Emily, what about you?
I watched the pilot for a show called Claws on Hulu. I really wanted to like it because that's why I watched it, because the promo photo was just like a bunch of diverse ladies. They were women, they were racially diverse, their bodies were all very different, and it opened with a scene of them all being like super sexy and owning their sexiness, and it was like, okay. The premise of the show is it's a bunch of women who work in a nail salon, a fancy nail salon. And Niecy Nash is the lead, and she's like laundering money for this gangster played by Dean Norris. My problem with the show is tonally it was all over the fucking map. I thought it was a really great concept. but there were times when people were so ridiculous stereotypes. Like one of the villains on the show is this white dude who's like one of those dudes who's like, "Hey, yo, what up?" You know, like Eminem kind of, but like lame. And then Dean Norris is doing some kind of really fake, over the top chewing scenery every second. But meanwhile, and so there's things that are clearly meant to be funny and silly and absurd. Meanwhile, you have Harold Perrineau, who's fucking amazing and one of my favorite actors in the whole world. You have Harold Perrineau playing a mentally disabled man, and he is giving it his all. But that does not belong in the same universe with Dean Norris's like crazy over the top parody of a gangster. And it just I don't know what the show is tonally. I was having a really hard time figuring out what I was supposed to be feeling during scenes. And that's a shame because I thought it had a lot of potential, and maybe it does. That was only the first episode, so you never know. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed. So.
I haven't heard great things about it.
Yeah.
I've talked to a few people who watched it because I thought like just the design of the show looked really cool. And
Yeah. I think the concept was good. I think the cast is phenomenal. It just tonally was just everywhere.
That's kind of too bad.
That's the only reason I was ever interested in it was the cast. I'm like, you got that one girl from Reno 911 and that other girl from True Blood, and I like both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You think it's something they can fix in a few episodes, or is this just kind of like that? Why?
I think you could fix it because it's, like I said, it's a tonal problem
Right.
for me, not a
Didn't
premise
it get
problem.
2 seasons already? I don't remember.
I don't know.
It's not new.
Oh, it's not new?
No, it's
Oh,
It's new-ish.
It only just showed up in my Hulu feed, so I assumed it was something new.
no, it's been.
Oh,
I
well,
remember
yeah.
watching stuff about it a while ago.
All right. Well,
Anyway.
it's new to me. Anyway, so I don't know if they fixed it or not, but I probably won't keep watching because there's too much material to.
Yeah. John, what about you?
So I watched a movie called Would You Rather. It's this kind of horror thriller thing where this guy gathers a bunch of people who need money into his estate, and with the promise of whoever is alive at the end of it will get money. But the game he plays is he asks them increasingly escalating versions of Would You Rather, and they have to, in like 15 seconds or 30 seconds, decide which one they'd rather do. Or
Is it like the comedy Bang Bang Would You Rather, where it's like the most ludicrous stuff in the entire world? Because that stuff was funny.
it doesn't get quite ludicrous enough. It doesn't quite deliver on the promise because it's like, ooh, this sounds like it could go all the way. It doesn't. It's still entertaining, but it's it's a Netflix find, and
Is it just violent or sex?
it's just violent. Yeah,
Is it
Yeah.
is it a Blumhouse?
I don't remember.
I usually assume movies like that are PG-13 Blumhouse.
It kind of has that feel to it.
Yeah.
And
Diarrhea down the back of your leg, sort of.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it Blumhouse? I always thought it was Blumhouse.
Is it Blumhouse?
It's a Gold Bloom or
It's
Gold Blum?
BLUM.
I always say Blumhouse, but I guess I could be wrong. Blumhouse sounds like a terrible name for it.
Someone from Blumhouse, please contact us to let us know.
You Blue Blums.
blum blum blum.
Is that all you have to say about it?
Yep, blum blum blum.
All right, Elvis, what about you?
Well, I've been doing a lot of research for what's coming for Chewie and Bryan, so I saw Tully this week.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we purposely gone, maybe we shouldn't watch that right before we have a kid.
I am not going to watch
Yeah.
it.
That's a good good idea. I'm gonna watch this for a little while. But I really liked it. I don't know if I liked it like as much as young adult or anything, but
I mean, that's the third time those two have worked together, right?
yeah,
Diablo Cody and Jesse Redmond.
yeah. And second for Theron in the bunch.
They have a good chemistry. Like I
Yeah.
look forward to seeing Tully in a while because I love Mackenzie Davis. I love Charlize Theron. Like I full of tons of things that I love, but also full of something that's quite horrifying. And
But when you're a soon-to-be parent, seeing someone who is an exasperated parent,
yeah,
Well,
and
she's-
what that entails,
I mean,
is
it
kinda,
looks like an illustration of hell because she's pregnant, she has a baby that she's still nursing, and then she has 2 young children as well.
No. There's only 3 children total.
Oh, okay. That's
Oh yeah,
better.
but she's pregnant, right?
She is pregnant.
So she has a baby and those 2 other kids.
no, that's the third baby.
That's the
that
third
she has.
baby. Yeah, she's not pregnant the whole movie.
Oh.
I don't think
So
that's a
there's
spoiler.
one kid,
But
It's
one
not. I
infant.
picked up on that in the trailer.
Okay, yeah.
So
I
there's
swear-
one kid, one toddler, and one infant.
No, there's like 2 kindergarten-ish age kids and 1 infant.
Okay.
That's
And
from
the infant
pregnancy.
comes later. Okay.
So Disaster Artist. So this movie, we're just gonna move right into it. This movie came out late-ish last year, and it was met with immediate praise of this is gonna be the Best Picture winner. It's gonna win all these awards. It's gonna do great. And then about a month happened. Everyone went, maybe it was just a good movie, and we'll get into all of that. I didn't do the numbers or the reviews or anything like that because I mean, numbers were it did well, reviews were people liked it, and some people loved it. Not a lot of people hated it, and I think that's kind of where we'll be today. Before we do any of that, though, we have to do a breakdown. Coming to you this week from Elvis Kunish. Elvis, are you excited to do a breakdown for this movie?
Yeah, because if I screw up, it's like on theme.
That's true.
So
Elvis is on the breakdown.
Yeah, I got nothing else for it. All right, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let's do this. The Disaster Artist in 30 seconds. Here we go.
The Disaster Artist is the story of the making of The Room, one of the worst movies ever made. That's air quotes there for the audio listeners. It's about Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero creating this film and having a toxic friendship, and it leads to creating a horrible, humiliating film. But the audience comes to embrace it through laughing at how terrible it is. And it's sort of about failure being a good thing.
There we go. Yeah, that'll work. Shut up, phone. There we go.
So much getting cut out of this episode.
I might leave shut up, phone.
Piss off, Goose.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that pretty much encompasses everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And James Dean.
And James Dean. So really quick, who here hasn't seen The Room? Is it only Chewie?
Yeah, probably.
Is that it? Have you seen
I've
The Room?
I've seen it, yeah.
Okay.
Many times.
So Chewie, we're going to be leaning on you a little bit throughout this episode.
Okay.
Not in a dangerous way to harm the baby, but to give us an insight, is this movie still good without seeing not the source material, because source material is a book that Greg wrote.
Yeah, I was about to
But
ask,
yeah.
because anybody else, because I listened to the
Yeah.
audiobook. Did anybody else read the book? Or
I
listen
did
to
not know.
No.
Okay.
I had heard you talk about it, and then I wanted to read it, and then I just never got around. I've been reading the same book since last September. I'll finish it at some point.
Which one?
But it.
You should read that to your kid.
Yeah, it's a really long book. It takes a long time to read.
Yeah.
But okay, so throughout the episode, I need to know, is this movie still good having not seen The Room? Because in my opinion, this movie is more of a love letter to friendship and the movie The Room than really anything else. And I mean that in both kind of a good and a bad way. But yeah, what did you think without seeing The Room?
Well, on first viewing, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was hilarious and everything else. I mean, I've seen things from The Room. I've seen clips, and I've seen people laugh about it and make jokes and stuff. So I definitely had entry points. Rewatch, I was just like, not as great. Still enjoyed it. Not really getting anything new out of it. To me, it's not really a rewatchable film in that way, because it's really just, you get what you get out of it. There's no subtext really to anything, except for the friendship aspect. And I would say that what makes this movie good is the friendship, because it goes from a very healthy friendship where he's helping the younger guy kind of break out of his shell, and then they go into bad friendship where the guy gets jealous of Dave Franco, Greg, becoming his own person, and then it comes back around where Greg helps Tommy Wiseau realize, yeah, you thought you were making one thing, but you made another, and people love it. So just lean into it and be happy. So they're like good, bad for each other. They're a really good example of a friendship where at times you're perfect for each other, and other times you really need to be apart and grow as a person, and then just come back and still be good for each other. That's what I get out of this movie.
No, I don't think you're wrong. And like the thing that this movie very easily could have been, and what James Franco did a very good job avoiding, was this movie could have just been mocking The Room for an hour and a half. Like that could have been the whole movie. And the first trailer that came out, although it was very funny, definitely made me think that's what it was going to be. Because if you didn't see the first trailer, it's just the scene where the first time he's on set and he can't remember his line.
Right.
And they do like 60 some odd takes of it, and it's hilarious and it's very funny. But I was afraid that was going to be the whole movie. Of like, let's watch them fuck around and attempt to make the worst movie ever made. And I think personally, I think they did a great job avoiding that.
Yeah, it never felt like to me that they were mocking The Room. It felt like they were praising, being naive and adventurous in a way.
Yeah.
Be like, well, this isn't working, so we're just gonna go do our own fucking thing, which is really easy when you're bloody ass rich. But
I was thinking yesterday along those lines. As problematic as James Franco as a person is, his performance in this movie is pretty spectacular.
It's fantastic.
The scene where he plays, where he's in an audition and he's playing a professor, and they're like, "Is that an accent?" And they tell him to do an American accent, and he turns around, he turns back around, and he goes, and he just does this absurd. And I was just saying, like, as a script supervisor, I don't know how you get through that scene without bursting out laughing. But what makes it work is, as funny as that is, he is absolutely playing that 100% sincere. Tommy, in that moment, thinks he is doing an American accent. There is no mocking. There is no, I'm being silly. You know, it's all very much like every minute he's on screen, he's like, no, this is I don't understand what you mean. This is my accent. I'm from New Orleans. What? You know?
Yeah,
so that's what makes it work.
I think
he's
that's
definitely always playing a sincere person who's also incredibly in his own world and naive about how things actually work.
I think that's about when I bought the performance. There was I think the performance was a bit rough at the beginning. There were a few moments where it from what I was watching, it looked like James was breaking his character a little bit. And there were brief moments, but it took me a while to really kind of be like, what are you doing here? I get you're trying to be like, it felt very imitation versus performance.
Well, for me, that comes into effect more so because he's James Franco and Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg.
Mm-hmm.
They lined this movie with every single friend they possibly could get into this
yeah.
movie,
Including the How Did This Get Made?
Yeah, they got all
the
three people from
podcast
How to Get
group.
Made. Like they got everyone into this thing.
Yeah.
And there's a part of it that makes me enjoy it for that. Like I enjoy seeing all the people, and like you can clearly tell how much fun they're all having. And at the same time, it kind of has like it kind of takes me out of it a little bit. It's like, all right, so I'm just watching you and your friends hang out. And I think that's where, when you say the performance might have been lacking, it's like, because he's not doing a performance necessarily. He's hanging out with his brother and his sister-in-law, and he's doing an accent that he's probably been doing since he saw The Room the first time. And I was like, oh, you do a great Tommy Wiseau. And
It's not easy.
it's not.
The whole movie, I kept trying to do it myself, and I'm like, no, it's not right.
really,
That's one reason I can totally recommend the audiobook is because Greg does the accent. Every time Tommy says anything in the book, because Greg's reading it, Greg does Tommy's accent, and it's spectacular.
well, Greg spent more time with him than anyone, so.
Well, they're still friends.
Yeah, and like, but that's like, so is James Franco. Like James Franco and him are friends now too. Like, so clearly he's not being like malicious or evil towards this guy. Like, that's not the point. But he, like, this, I'm guessing here, but it came out of place of like mockery and making fun of him, and then he just got better and started to like the guy. So I think in those scenes where you say it's problematic, it's like because it's not really a performance. He's mocking him, and it's like I don't think he thinks that he is, or even that he would be, but it kind of. I think because that's probably where it started.
Yeah, I
those
agree.
moments when it's just him and his family, it probably ekes out a little bit, and then like later on, like when he's not just with his brother and his sister-in-law or his best friend from fucking forever ago,
Right.
and he has to act against different people, his performance is better.
See, I think that's where that's those moments are what caught the most and
Yeah.
gelled, is that when he was acting against people who weren't part of his troupe. Because like you said, and I didn't even kind of really fully connect the dots until you just said that, but when he's with his crew, his people, it's a sketch. It is like they're just goofing around, making a skit. And it really strains against that performance where everyone's like, he's doing such a great job. It's like, well, but I keep getting pulled out in those moments.
Yeah. Because there's something about, like, because if for those of you who don't know, Dave Franco's married to Allison Brie. So, like, there's a lot of scenes with just the three of them. It's like, this is just a family having fun together, which is great to watch. And I don't think that James Franco ever gives a bad performance in the whole movie, but I think it's better when he's not just one-on-one with, as you say, his troupe.
And it almost forces him to kind of put more, like, do more of an examination of the character. When he's with his friends, he's not really doing that.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's more of a spoof.
That's where like two scenes that I really appreciate in this movie, where it shows his genuineness with his performance. The first one is when they go to a club in LA, and Dave/Greg actually meets a bartender, his wife, for the first time, and
So
Tommy
easily too, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he's very handsome.
He is a very attractive man.
Everything is so easy for Greg in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
For me, Dave Franco is way more attractive than
Until the beard.
the other
Greg
Franco.
Sestero.
Oh, the fake beard?
That's a
Franco.
fake beard. That's not his real beard.
I know.
But
if we want to talk about a real villain of this movie,
It's
Thanos
a
level
fucking beard.
Yeah, Thanos level villain, that beard.
But so they're in the club, and Tommy Wiseau is just dancing away, being completely in his own world, not really self-aware, owning himself, like, because he dances like a complete maniac. That's one of the charming things about Tommy Wiseau is he just does not give any fucks. And then he sees Greg talking to the bartender girl, and you can see it in like his just body language. It shifts immediately. Instant jealousy. Like, no, he's my friend. Don't talk to that girl. Don't like, you know, that toxic friendship thing. And then he gets pissy. And he's like, "This club sucks. We have to leave." And it's a really good performance because you've all seen a friend, or you've been that friend who's suddenly like, "No, that's not how tonight was supposed to go."
Right.
That's one of the things I really appreciate about this movie, because in the book, one thing I could never fucking understand is why Greg stayed with Tommy. Tommy is an asshole, and he's abusive, and he's toxic, and he's constantly, it's basically, I mean, I saw all kinds of shades of like an abusive romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Tommy is a piece of shit. And so I could never understand that in the book, and in the movie, they do such a great job of making it clear that Greg just wants to be more open the way Tommy is open, the way that he just like is, like you said, when he was dancing, is in his own world. That's the thing that Greg doesn't know how to do. So he sees that in Tommy and he admires it. And they played that a little better in the movie for me than it, even though Greg was reading the book, even though he wrote it, I still was very unclear about it.
I mean, it could have been one of those things where even Greg didn't fully realize
Yeah.
it. Like, it could be just one of those subconscious things where from the outside you could totally see it, like, oh, that's why he stuck around. But when it's you living it, it's harder to see.
And the other moment for the performance that really got me was when he goes to Bob Odenkirk's acting class.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
And he's trying to
I love
do.
Bob Odenkirk.
He's trying to do Shakespeare because that's what he wants to be. He wants to be a respected, like, artistic actor. And Bob Odenkirk's like, "What are you doing? Stop it! No, you're like a villain. You're like Dracula and Frankenstein." And then you, like, it's a moment where you really feel for Tommy Wiseau because, yeah, he's kind of a doofus, idiot, toxic person, but he's trying to be genuine. And then everyone's laughing at him, and he absorbs that, and he just looks back at the crowd and goes, "No, you all villains." And I'm like, that's actually pretty deep. Like, that's a deep cut right there because they are in that moment. I think that's a great moment
from
of
his perspective, though.
But yeah, but it's still,
I mean,
like,
I think
he's
the way
trying.
the
like,
movie is constructed in such a way that that transfer of villainy is kind of interesting.
In
That's an
that
interesting scene.
moment, it was true because he's just a dude trying his best in this crowd of people, and they all just start mocking him.
But I'm taking a leap here because I've never actually asked you this before, but you've never been in acting class before, right?
No, I have.
Okay.
I did it very briefly.
Okay, but in an acting class, like, you have those moments where the worst actor in the class, and I've been that person before, gets up and does the best they can, and everyone just sits there and goes, "Oof," and then somebody has to give notes, and that's what you do. You tell them what works, and you hope for the best.
But there's
and
a difference between going oof and giggling at them.
No, but that definitely my directing one thesis was given to a class where everyone laughed at it the whole way through. I'm like, well, fuck, because you had to use the actors in the class, which was Tony. Fuck Tony for everyone.
We haven't had a fuck Tony in forever.
Yes.
and he broke into giggles, and like this was like the thing I was getting graded on, and everyone laughed the whole way through. And the only thing the teacher can do is tell you what works and what doesn't work, and hope you can take the note. Tommy can't take notes.
Same way when he meets the producer at the restaurant, which I just cringe because I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but as a screenwriter, I've definitely seen screenwriters, usually digitally, like on Twitter or whatever, but embarrass the fuck out of themselves, being like, "Please, please, please give me a chance," but at parties too, and they're like, "Oh God, please stop." But like, actually, like in the real world, that producer did him a huge favor by saying to him, "This is not," because most people blow smoke up your ass, and you know, but his like, "This is not happening for you. You do not have what it takes." It's kind of sad, but at the same time, it's like not enough people are actually told that. And I kind of was like, totally, even though, you know, obviously Tommy's being an idiot in that moment, but even though it's kind of a sad moment for him, and you want to be like, "No, you can do anything," the truth is you can't. The Room's success is a fucking outlier. This movie's kind of dangerous because people are like, "See, you can do the worst thing imaginable and become a huge star," and that's really not true. In reality, that producer telling him to stop acting because he sucks is one of the nicest things. That it sounds shitty, but like, that, you know, he's trying to save him from wasting time and money and his life on something that's never going to happen.
And the thing was, especially with that scene, like I'm not a big fan of Judd Apatow as an actor. Like he's done it a few times, and it's like stay behind the camera, Judd. Like you're great at stand up. Just do that and nothing else, except for I'll go with nothing else. I'll take a dig at Judd. He doesn't know when to say cut, and he lets his actors talk too long. It ruins every movie he's ever had.
Yeah.
What is it, a podcast, Judd? Come on.
he kind of glorifies a different version of toxic masculinity outside of the violent one.
Oh, that's a whole different Judd cast.
The man baby stuff.
Yeah.
Either way, I really like him in that scene, and I think he did a really good job playing that guy. But I think he did exactly what you said that he wasn't doing in the beginning of that conversation of blowing smoke up his ass. Like, oh yeah, contact my assistant. We'll set up an appointment, and like just tries to get rid of him. And when he won't go away, then he's like, all right, fine, I'll drop the hammer of Thor on you. You will fail.
That's true. That's a good point.
Do you think in that way that Tommy, in at least in the movie, he actually succeeds in getting everybody to open up, be real? Because he like the standard
in a way,
thing in that way for Judd Apatow is like
he tries everyone's
to push him off.
patience in a way of like I can't handle this for very long.
No, but I kind of think what Elvis is saying is true, though. Like, he does kind of push people to the point of like, all right, I'll just be honest with you.
That's
Fuck
what I
off.
mean. Like, you can't handle him. Like, there's no handling Tommy Wiseau. Like, you can't smooth, be nice to him in a way. Where you know what I mean by handling? Where they're like, we just have to be nice, get him out of here without damaging anything. It's just like, no, you just need to actually damage Tommy Wiseau, otherwise he won't go away.
Well, it's a little force of nature. Like.
Yeah. Referring to him as a force of nature is just
kind of
horrifying.
Is.
I'm actually trying to, as we're talking, I'm trying to think, and this is more based on the character in the movie than the real person, obviously, but do you think he's like a sort of benevolent sociopath, or does he actually care about people?
I don't think he has much
Because when you describe the scene of like him at the club, I'm just thinking like this is like the nice version of Donald Trump, where it's like it's all me,
Yeah.
and then immediate jealousy.
I would say, judging from the book, it sounds like he had a really, really, really fucked up, shitty childhood. So for that, there's some sympathy. But the lesson that he learned from his life is to just be absolutely self-absorbed, and everything is about Tommy all the time, and like he uses Greg. It really, maybe he cares about him, but everyone in Tommy's life is, it seems to me from the book, and even from Greg's perspective, who's like his best friend, it still sounds like Tommy is just using everyone and everything is about him.
Not even
It's
just
his
from the
planet.
You are on Tommy's planet.
Yeah.
But like, that's the thing, is even with all of that, and I apologize for the airplane sounds. But with that, it's still like, I don't think that's not necessarily true of Tommy in real life either. Like from what I've seen of him, and like, granted, I've met him once at a Comic-Con convention, and that was like.
Did you buy his signed underwear?
I did not.
Yeah, he sells You could buy Tommy Wiseau underwear and he'll sign it for you.
It's really weird. But yeah, so I said hi to him, and that was it. But
hopefully not.
Hopefully, what are you talking about?
He used to have. Does he still have Booth Babes?
I mean, this was years ago. So
I mean,
he had
it
Booth
would
Babes
make
then.
more
I don't know if he
sense
still
for him to
does.
sell belts.
It
Why is he
would.
not selling belts?
Belts for your belts.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so like I've only met him once, and he was very nice the 2 seconds that I talked to him. But I think it's still kind of true. Like you just look at everything from when James Franco won the Best Actor Golden Globe. The very first thing, because he brought Tommy up with him, which was a unbelievably and unprecedented, like, nice gesture and totally not needed.
I was irritated he didn't bring Greg up because Greg actually wrote the fucking book.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, but the
he's based it off the
performance-
performance of that
yeah.
guy, so I get it. But if they won Best Picture and he didn't bring Greg up, I would agree with you.
But didn't Dave go up with
Yeah,
him too?
he brought his brother up and he brought Tommy up. So
Could have brought
Yeah.
Greg.
yeah, he brought.
Greg's like, hey guys, my story, thanks.
Yeah, but it
But-
was for acting, not
Yeah.
story.
But what I'm saying is, so the very first thing that Tommy did was grab the microphone as if he was going to talk instead of the guy who just won the award. And it's like,
I do remember that.
yeah, and James Franco was pretty quick, like, no.
Yeah.
But there's something about Tommy where Tommy, I don't think he understands that people make fun of his movie. He's not an idiot. And he's like, no, I made the movie for people to enjoy, and if you can enjoy it however you want. And it's like, okay, great. But like at the same time, like, part of me wonders if he buys the bullshit that he's selling. Because in the movie, I don't think that he does necessarily. I feel that he's just constantly spewing bullshit and just expects people to follow him whether or not they believe him. Does it make sense?
Yeah, because I think Tommy, and certainly in the movie, is just his whole personality is a performance too,
Yeah.
which is interesting because he's a terrible actor. But like everything about him seems crafted, and actually the fact that you mentioned like he had booth babes,
Yeah.
at least in terms of like everything I know about him and from the movie, like I don't see like a sexuality coming from Tommy Wiseau.
What do you mean? You see his butthole in the movie.
Right, but like every time like he interacts,
Can't
in
figure
back-
out where her vagina is.
It's
No.
a real Hollywood movie, guys.
But it's like it all seems so performative in that way. It's like I
Yeah.
have the booth babes, I have to have the pretty girl and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it's I don't know if I have a point here, but I find it's interesting that it feels like he's so like he's creating a performance for who this weird Tommy Wiseau guy is. And
He has an idea of what people expect from him,
Yeah.
even though it's not really correct.
yeah.
Because, yeah, if he probably thinks I'm going to a con, I need a booth babe. That's a thing. Even though they have moved away from that pretty drastically. these
Right,
days.
Yeah.
right. And it's like it's not he wants to be an all-American guy, not like the hero in the movie, of course. And it's not because he actually wants that, but it's like he thinks that's who he's supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think that comes through in both real life and in the movie. Like he really thinks that he is the all-American hero, Johnny.
Yeah.
That's so encapsulated when they throw the football around. He's like, "I love football, a great American game," as he throws it like underhanded across the field. Bounces.
Like, there's so much really to like kind of pick and chew on in this movie, especially with Dave Franco. But let's move around some of the supporting cast of like the guy who actually directed the movie, Seth Rogen. As
Who, by the way, that is not what a script supervisor does, guys. He's basically a first AD in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
I was hoping you would
I
bring
don't
that
think
up.
they had a first AD.
Yeah, probably not.
So,
But it's like, so he's a script supervisor, first AD, and director.
Yeah. he didn't look happy about it.
No, I don't think he was.
But I actually think Seth Rogen is one of the better performances in the movie. Like I
Yeah.
actually
I would agree with that.
because it didn't
Yeah.
feel like a lot of these people. They did a really good job of. A lot of times with the Evan Goldberg, Seth Rogen movies, they feel like Seth Rogen in this movie or James Franco in this movie. And I actually feel like they all did a really good job kind of disappearing in their roles. It's one of the better performances Seth Rogen's given in a while. Like he didn't feel like Seth Rogen playing a character. It felt like, oh, that's the script supervisor.
He wasn't trying to compete with anybody else either.
Yeah, yeah.
Which was
Yeah.
it's a small distinction, but like when you get a lot of those people together, sometimes it can be like, who's the funniest in the room?
Yeah, like you watch This Is the End, and it's just a room full of comedians trying to be funnier than the guy next to them.
Right.
And this one, they really did a good job not doing that.
He totally played a guy who has done a billion movies and is just so jaded by the whole process. And he's just like, it'd be really great as a script supervisor if I saw a script. And he's like, oh, everybody wants script. And he's like, okay. Like, just had this whole reaction. And he doesn't really even change that, even though he gets irritated at Tommy at one point. Even that's the same attitude he has when they're at the premiere. And he's like, well, wouldn't you be surprised if he didn't do something fucking weird? Like, just his whole attitude throughout the whole movie is like, whatever, you
And-
pay my check,
yeah.
I'll still do the job.
And at least, I don't know if every one of us at the table has been in this situation, but I know I have of, here's the check, going to the bank.
Oh yeah.
What's going to happen?
Yeah.
I really hope this doesn't bounce.
That line about it being a bottomless pit is actually what the teller told him, according
Yeah.
to Greg. Yeah, that's from a lot of this is directly, and that scene with the water bottle where Tommy can't remember his lines, that is pulled. So much of this is, but there's a lot of stuff that's not in the book, but there's so many scenes that are pulled like word for word from the book.
That's pretty
And
cool.
and that's a super smart in general, because there is a lot of actors that are so desperate to have something to do with their hands to take their mind off what's going on with their mouth.
Yeah.
I need 2 coffee mugs.
Well, there's some actors who like in every scene they're eating because
Yeah.
they love eating and talking, which I don't understand, but okay.
I mean, even when you go back to like the original like moving out of silent films, give everybody cigarettes because they needed something to do. Thanks a lot, silent movies, for making us all smokers.
Oh, those poor actors, they had so many health
God.
problems.
But they made great noirs. with
They
it.
did.
But that again was also a great moment of showing their friendship because here's Greg who finally realizes how to get through to Tommy where no one else can.
Yeah.
No, I really like that he kind of is like the Tommy whisperer. Like the whole time, people are just like, he's the only guy who understands Tommy, even remotely. And I think even Greg would be like, I barely understand the guy. But he just knows that much more than everyone, which makes him an expert.
Which
And-
I wonder if the movie would have benefited from more of that, because I haven't read the book, so I don't know. Like, it feels like it's probably more Greg observing Tommy and dealing with him, whereas this movie was very much bouncing between Tommy and Greg, leaning more toward Tommy.
I thought about that the first time I saw it, of like, would this movie be better if it was all Greg and then Tommy as kind of like the Captain Jack Sparrow, like, oh, he's
Right.
clearly the point person in the movie, but not the main character, fuck you, Pirates 4 and 5. But it's like, I think with a character like Tommy, to put him in the wings even a little bit, you're missing out on why everyone's there. Like, people are not going to see the Greg story. They might have read the book, but the only reason they read the book, for the most part, was to get more of Tommy. Like, everybody just wants more Tommy because he's such an interesting, weird fucking dude.
Yeah.
So if this movie had gone less Tommy, I think it would have been the wrong choice. And I think they struck the balance pretty well.
Yeah.
Personally.
Because
I can
it's
agree
like
with
a
that.
voyeuristic fetish sort of thing, attraction towards him, because he is so extreme, and no one else, like, if you ever try to act like that, the response you would get would not be positive. It'd be terrible for your career and your social life. But this man became famous being this way, so there's definitely some sort of thing about it that attracts you to him because it's so taboo.
It's the unleaded narcissism.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
He just can't stop trying, so he, like, eventually, and then I feel like this, I mean, our culture right now is, like, geared towards finding those people and just, like, accentuating them as much as possible. So he's kind of, like, in the right place
They're
at the right
great
time too.
to laugh at, not to make your president.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not kidding about the right time, though. Because if this had happened 10 years later, this never would have worked.
Yeah.
Like, because this wouldn't have gotten a theater run. This would have been a YouTube movie, and he would have been a YouTuber. Nobody would have cared. But instead, he got there before any of that happened, and he was able to just be, like, the quintessential, like, you're almost Ed Wood, but you're not Ed Wood. Like,
Yeah, you have to be
Ed
the last
What
Ed
I would
Wood.
say about this
Ed
movie
Wood
too.
himself was a pretty crazy, eccentric fetish guy.
oh, Ed Wood's such a good movie.
I love Ed Wood.
Go back
Worst
and
movie you've ever seen? Well, this one will be
Oh
better.
my god! Can you just imagine the two of them on set together?
Oh, that'd be bad.
Avengers 4.
two negatives make a
Make a thing.
positive? No.
One's wearing a lot of belts, the other one's wearing cashmere sweaters.
All right, so I'm just going to kind of go through some of the complaints that I've heard from people because I feel like we're loving on it a little bit more than I thought we would. And I want to see if we can come up with defenses for any of them. The first complaint that I've heard from a lot of people is that they just wanted basically behind the scenes of the room, and this movie only does that for like about half. Like the other half is all about the relationship. Did that bother anybody else? Did anybody want more of like secrets of the room?
Especially since
I
I,
will
didn't see the movie. No.
Yeah.
I will say that you were kind of talking about this earlier, John, when we were focusing on the performances, but both when I saw it in theaters and then when I watched it for this, I was like, I could walk out of this movie up until they meet with
Jason Mantzoukas.
yes,
Yeah.
Jason Mantzoukas and Hannibal Buress,
Right.
and start the plot line of actually filming the movie. Everything before that, it's like not bad. I wouldn't besmirch anybody who enjoyed it, but I'm just like, I'm not compelled to be here right now.
Actually, to me,
Yeah.
the beginning of the movie kind of feels like a setup for a whole different horror film.
Yeah,
This young, attractive, impressionable guy who needs to be broken out of his shell gets kind of like wooed by the older, rich white guy, or who's going to take him to his apartment in Los Angeles away from his parents.
I'm going to my room.
Like,
with
you could so end up dead.
I'm going to my room with 3 strange men.
That's certainly the movie Megan Mullally thinks.
Yeah.
Oh, she's so, I'd be so worried about my son. Who is this guy?
But I would agree for the most part. I think the movie really hits the ground running once they get to LA. Like once they both start like pursuing their dream, and like Greg has minimal success, Tommy obviously has none. I think that's kind of when it starts going, because that's when you can kind of see them like, oh, I might have a career in commercials and soap operas, or maybe something here. I won't have a career in anything, and how they kind of come back together, and then they make this movie.
I can kind of see the complaint, but at the same time, mine's a little bit different, kind of is tangential to it. But they show they recreate a lot of scenes in this movie, and in my opinion, way too many. I think and this is kind of me being myself, but I don't think they needed any of those scenes. Maybe just a hint at them, but like there was so much reliant on recreating the scenes that we did lose some behind the scenes. So I could see where the complaint is that there's just not enough behind the scenes stuff, is because we get into the scene that they're doing. It's like, well, we've seen this scene hundreds of times.
Yeah.
We don't need that scene again. We can get shorthand. But the movie kind of uses that as a crutch. That's kind of my version of that complaint.
See, I disagree with
Yeah, I
that.
disagree too. I don't know what scenes did they because any scene that they were recreating was all about like the people who were watching the scene play out and their reaction to it.
Like the only time that they really recreated the scenes was for the dump before the credits, which I was fine with. Like, 'cause
Amazing!
I
I want to talk about that.
Yeah, like that was like, oh, this is cool because the movie's done, and now we're just seeing how much they love the room and wanted to recreate it. you're basically just watching a victory lap of like, hey, we had fun and this is what we made.
Or are you talking about when they were screening the movie to the audience?
Kind of all of it. There was a lot of. I wanted to see the reactions of the people more than I saw the scenes themselves. Like, imagine like if they'd kind of Spielberged the sex scene where everyone was reacting to the butt instead of actually seeing it. It was like,
I don't think they were reacting to his butt. They were reacting to how he was mistreating the lead actress.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we got the reaction, especially in that scene. I think that's maybe the best
It's one
scene
of the most
movie.
intense parts of this film.
Yeah.
Yeah, John.
If anything, I actually had the thought like this movie feels like it's the Jim reaction shot of movies.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of depth there, but it's like cut to Jim reacting to a weird situation.
Jim. I thought you meant GYM, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I thought
Jim
there was
from The
two.
Office.
Okay.
Right.
Jim Halpert.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I kind of agree with you. Like, it's kind of, no offense, John, but it's kind of the opposite. Like, I almost wish we'd had more of a balance of like what they're seeing and what we're seeing, because it really just kind of felt like, oh, I know what scene they're filming because there's the bed, and now we're just gonna spend the whole time with the reaction. Like, it just kind of felt like, I didn't really need more, I guess, but like, I don't know. There's something just, I kind of wanted more of the, like the lunch table, like what the fuck did we do today sort of conversations, more so than the let's stand around and scream at each other on set, because I feel like we got a lot of that. Like there was a lot of like, let's scream about this scene, let's scream about this scene, let's scream about this scene. They just kind of moved from one to one to one, where I really like the conversations with like when they're sitting at the lunch table trying to figure out Tommy. Like I like that sort of like, I want to see this crew who are stuck in the weeds with each other going like, this is the worst experience we've ever had, and we've all worked on horrible movie after horrible movie, so that says something that this is the worst.
And there was some interesting, like the old lady had an interesting thought. It was like, well, this is just what we do. This is like there was a philosophy of acting in there that was like, this is really fascinating. Where's the rest of this? Where's this for the other elements?
Yeah.
And I was like, that would have been
agree.
very interesting to kind of explore, but yeah.
I wonder if that's not because this is so much from Greg's perspective, and Greg probably wouldn't have been included in most of those conversations.
True.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
so
because they
maybe
kind of
he'd
tried
be viewed as a spy.
Yeah.
A narc.
But that's where I think like that was more of the movie that I think I wanted going into this. When granted that just because it's not that doesn't mean this is a bad movie, but it's just like that's kind of what I wanted to see. Was more of just like the what the fuck are we working on? And we kind of got that every now and then, but like not really that much. This movie's really about the friendship between those two guys, and like it's just all about like the passion of making film, which I appreciate. It kind of felt like a what was that old documentary? American Movie, was that it?
I've never
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of felt like that, but these guys had money and they're not sitting at their kitchen table just looking at bills crying like, I'm not going to be able to afford anything.
And I suppose
Or like Kevin Smith, who's just like credit card,
Yeah.
credit card.
I suppose if it had gone too far to that, what we wanted, it would have been more of like the movie about movie making, which there's a line, a fine line to cross before it becomes like, oh, it's a movie about making movies, whatever, to the general audience. Whereas like this probably strikes a better balance with that.
I don't know how though, like because I think this movie is entirely a movie about making movies, and for some reason this
It doesn't
one
feel like it though. In
this
a
one
weird way.
Also, I would say if you really, really all you want is the behind the scenes, just go read the book
Yeah.
or listen to the book because it's awesome. Also, his mom is French and he does her accent as well, so
That's
I highly
cool.
recommend that.
Interesting.
But like even with the book, it's still all Greg's perspective.
Yeah,
like, I want the
that's
perspective
true.
of like the DP. Like I want somebody like we even tried to get him on this episode, but he was unavailable. The AC of the movie is a friend of Chewie's, and it's like I wanted to have like I want to get that point of view because I mean I've already grilled that guy many times because I worked on a movie with him. I'm like, you need to tell me everything about the room. And
He
he's
was
like,
the
"Ah."
most annoyed with the roof sequence.
I can imagine.
Oh yeah.
We're like,
Which one?
Wait, well, the one where they're like, all right, we'll shoot this roof doesn't work. Let's go to a different. All right, no. All right, let's go to the first roof we were at, but we don't like the background, so let's green screen it. Actually, we're just gonna do B-roll of the thing around the roof and then put it over the green screen, even though it is what's actually around us. I'm just like, can you just imagine being the camera going, what the fuck?
Well, I enjoyed talking about being in AC when you have two cameras shooting the same
Oh,
angle
God.
every
Oh,
angle, and he's just like,
Which they didn't really. They mentioned him buying the equipment, but you didn't really see that.
Oh, yeah, they
saw
show the
rig,
double
but
camera, yeah.
I guess that's one thing. Like, it's really hard to explain that to lay people. So it's like if you spend
Yeah,
too
they
much
brush
time on
over
it.
it a little bit,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of
Probably
like
for the best because there's some complex things in there, like the whole idea of like you don't buy equipment
Yeah.
in Los
Yeah.
Angeles, and that they glossed over it thankfully enough because it's like yeah, you can get some pretty deep things.
I
with
mean,
that.
but they did it well enough where they showed that buying equipment was weird. And like you have to have a shit ton of money if you want to buy equipment.
Yeah.
And it
Also, Tommy took the cameras home
Oh,
He
yeah.
took his camera home.
Yeah,
So then when he was 2 hours late every day, they literally couldn't shoot anything till he got there.
which was genius when I realized that's why they hadn't started in that
Yeah.
one scene. It's like,
Yeah.
oh right,
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise just fucking
he's that
shoot
much
without-
of a megalomaniac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got really mad when he's like, "You buy water." I'm like, "No, legally, you're supposed to
No,
fucking
you
buy
buy
water.
What's wrong
No
with you?
matter what type of scent it is. That is one thing that."
I got what? Yeah, that wasn't something that was in the book. Was there really no crafty on set? Oh my god, how is your crew not like?
The discussion of the water and the fainting, that was a horror film for all
Yeah.
of us in the industry.
I get pissed if there's no diet soda on set.
My thing that I really liked in this movie was I've worked on not as many films as some people around the table, but I've been on plenty with directors who suck. And everyone treats directors as if they're these little temperamental, like, you know, like with kitten gloves. Like, you want to be very kind to the directors. And I love that this movie got to the point where, like, no, fuck the director. He's an asshole. And the scene between him and Paul Scheer, which I will say this is the best performance Paul Scheer has ever given, and I really liked him in
Never
this
seen
movie.
him do a serious role.
I know, and he was really good. But I love it when he's like, and we're 4 hours behind. Well, whose fault is that? And he's yours, you fucker.
I love the little cutaway shot of him coming out of Tommy's private bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
Is it that tiny rebellion? Yes, I shit in your toilet.
I think that was the one scene where I just like burst out laughing when he introduces the bathroom.
Oh my god.
It's like, that's for me. Like, oh, fuck.
I just Seth Rogen like, you know, there's a working bathroom just right over there. This is a real Hollywood movie. Okay.
I think
It's still like whatever.
I think he just really likes being behind black curtains because he has the same setup in his apartment for his
Yeah.
bed.
Is that in the book? Did he just sleep in his living room?
He just
Oh,
like made a curtain and separated the room into
such
his
a-
own little bit. Yeah.
The room he separated?
Oh,
It's like an illusion of privacy, but he's still like performing. He's still it's like an exhibitionist thing too.
well, yeah,
He's, like,
because
he's so close
you
to
would
the
be able to
action.
hear him poop and pee every
Yeah.
single time.
That sounds uncomfortable.
He has eyes everywhere.
Actually, I was
Poop
on
everywhere.
one of my Lifetime movies. We kind of had that situation because we were in somebody's. It was like a warehouse that someone converted into a giant loft, and they had made a bathroom in the middle of like the living room, and it had 4 walls and everything, but it didn't have a ceiling.
Oh,
So every time somebody went into it, I could hear them pee, and every now and then I would make comments. I'd be like, "Come on, man, how much did you drink or whatnot?"
I've never, all sets I've been on, I've never actually known of a director who went to the bathroom. Like, they'll disappear, but I go to the bathroom a lot, and I've never seen them coming in or out. It's just like they magically know when to just be like, and then vanish.
Didn't you tell me a story that Christopher Nolan made everyone listen to him pee over the walkie
Yes.
on
What?
Dark Knight?
He did. He brought a walkie in, and he's like, "Does anyone want to know what it sounds like when the director pees?" And I was just like, I fucking love Christopher Nolan. It's just, I know we
They
rag.
do not have bodily functions.
We do rag on him a lot on this podcast. But
it's important to
he's
know that
silly
he's
though.
human, right?
Oh my God.
He's still a wonderful
He's
human
still
being.
Yeah.
funny. He's still great.
I know somebody who worked on The Dark Knight, and she said she was a PA, one of like a dozen PAs. And
Yeah,
he
that
knew-
was me.
He knew her name. No, it was my friend Bola.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She also did.
Y'all
So now you know too. Is there anything that we haven't hit in this movie that people would like to talk about? I see Elvis has notes.
Makeup.
Makeup.
Yeah, go.
Like
go.
I'm
Were there-
watching James Franco's face. I'm like, he's got a rather slender face. So I kept looking at him like, did they pack your cheeks? Is this like how? Like what did you do to make your face rounder? I couldn't figure it out because it didn't look like there was any prosthetics on him.
And if there were like props to the makeup people or whoever made him look that way. 'Cause
Yeah.
like there was no seam. I didn't.
How do they? This is just me being ignorant. How do they do the half eye thing? Because I've seen that in movies before.
I think a lot of times there's like a glue that you can put on your skin to like hold it down. Or
Okay.
even when I was doing stage makeup, you literally just got tape and you pulled your eyelid down with the tape and then you covered that up with a shit ton of concealer.
and that's how they do like the half closed eye thing.
yeah,
Okay.
like when we were learning it, it was to make ourselves look Asian, and now I'm like, that's
Oh
inappropriate.
boy. Wow.
But that's stage makeup, guys.
I want to talk about the recreations of those scenes from The Room.
Oh, yeah.
'cause the skill that went into that is incredible. Just like everybody did their job really well.
I mean, there's skill that went into recreating it, but there's no skill that created the original.
Oh
so
no,
it's like,
not at all.
and it's weird. I have a weird like relationship with that kind of thing where it's like trying to work very hard on a huge budget to recreate something that no one worked hard on at all. Like you were
Yeah.
saying,
Just try.
rubs me the wrong way. You know, like I get irrationally angry
Oh, see, that to me sounds like super, for a scriptwriter's perspective, that sounds like super fun. To be able to, like, because you're working together with all the departments, obviously they're doing their job, but then you're the last one who looks at it and sort of goes, okay, is this correct? Is this correct? And that scriptwriter probably had to watch the room like 800,000 times.
See, from that point of view, that is interesting. From me, where I work with like clients of various kinds who want to mimic a thing that clearly they just did and it became famous, a style. They're like, we want to do it like this, and then they spend time and budget to really force it, and they're so panicked about it. I'm like,
oh yeah,
but that's trying to mimic something. This wasn't mimicking anything. This was like lovingly recreating it.
I
Like,
have been on
different.
that end, like especially as an art PA back in the day, when we would have to do reshoots for a movie, and they'd be like, well, here's this scene, here's stills from the scene, find that stuff, we didn't save it.
Yeah,
I was just like, this sucks. It really, it's not very much fun.
Yeah,
Because
that's
you're
just
on the
fun for
internet,
me. Yeah, it's
you're
really
on the
not fun for
phone,
you.
you're like, I need this lamp, it's wrong in just this one way.
Yeah,
It
you
needs to be different. Can you get it to be as good?
Like Lisa's outfits particularly, they're just slightly off
Just a
because they
little
couldn't,
off.
obviously they couldn't find it, and they tried to make it,
It's
but they
like-
couldn't find whatever that fabric was.
it's like cosplay for set deck. It's just like,
So from that point
it
of view,
takes
yeah,
the fun out of
impressive.
it.
But philosophically, I have weird issues.
But
with
their
it.
But
performances,
I get what you're
too.
saying.
Yeah.
The chick who plays Lisa, like when you
yeah.
watch
She's
that,
so
there's
good.
one scene where she is exactly like
Yeah.
you can't tell who's talking because they sound like the exact same person. It's amazing.
But that's what I mean. Like, I get what Chewie and John are saying. Sounds very frustrating from a professional standpoint, but that has nothing to do with what they were doing here. Because what they were doing here was literally trying to recreate it. They weren't doing reshoots. They weren't trying to
That's
appease
what I
a
mean.
client.
And it's even harder.
Yeah,
Because
like-
you have to try to find the things that. And
You
this
don't
movie's
have.
20 years old at this point.
But you guys are working on stuff for people. Like, the people who made this love this.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this isn't something where, like, we have to do what? Fuck. They're like, we get to do what? Awesome. And, like,
Maybe.
Now
for
juxtapose
them,
that with
for them.
For the person who's finding the object, it might be hell.
Now,
I
and
was
it
just
might
thinking about how
be.
much fun it would be to look at your still and look at the screen and look at the set and just walk around and be like, "This is a millimeter off. This is a millimeter off." That as fun to me.
See now,
So-
then editor me comes in and is like, "This is fascinating." It's like
Yeah.
it's like the side by side for the two Star Wars trailers, Force Awakens and Last Jedi, where they're like, "This is beat by beat the same thing." I was like,
For-
"It's that same thing." Where as editor, that's fascinating. So I'm just a bundle of weird conflicting emotions.
For art department, for me, the level of fun, I guess, would really be influenced by the amount of money I have.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
If you're doing this on a tight budget and you want me to recreate it exactly, fuck you. If you got a lot of money and you want me to recreate it, all right, we can play.
We'll make this
You
work.
got to find just
You
the
can
right
get it.
picture of
You can just
spoons.
go get a fabricator to remake it.
What else have we missed? Is there anything else that we haven't hit on this thing?
I was gonna say I'm kind of conflicted on the whole recreation stuff
Oh.
too, because yeah, it's one thing I love it because it's like just demonstrates how much joy and passion and happiness this for these people. It's like awesome whenever you see something that's like, oh, these people love making this. But on the other, I am also like, this is the whole reason they made the movie was for this basically. And in that way, I feel like the movie, I don't know, it could have gone more in depth to like exploring the darker side of this character. Like, it felt like because they kind of had to because they needed Tommy's approval.
Right,
but it
right.
felt like kind of a toothless exploration of this guy.
Well, yeah, you're not going to get something that actually bites until he's dead.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that you could have him on set being like, oh, yeah, this is what happened or this isn't what happened if you're making fun of him the whole way through.
And that's probably why they had that cut scene at the end with him,
Oh, for
was
sure.
to make sure everyone knew we're not making fun of him.
Yeah.
See, he approves of our movie.
And I'm kind of surprised they didn't try to get anybody else.
love
Maybe they
that
did and
scene
it didn't
so
work. They were actually pretty funny together.
Yeah.
But
Like, what is wrong with you?
Dave's friends, man. But like I kind of would have liked to see Greg in it at some point. I would have liked to see I forget her name, the girl who played Lisa, because all she does now is YouTube videos in Texas.
Juliette Daniels, I think.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Because I've watched her like videos online. She seems really personable and friendly and nice, but I can't imagine she had a good time making this movie.
She got the role because Tommy insisted that everyone make out with him, and a lot of actresses just walked away. And
the right call.
Juliette wanted that part so badly that she was like, fuck it. And she was willing. So she got the part largely because she was willing to do what it takes. She was willing to make out with Tommy.
See, I wanted
What
that
did she
scene
think
in
she
this
was
movie.
Yeah,
doing?
yeah,
That's so
yeah.
much more interesting.
But I'm just like, what did she think she was making then? Like, I would like to get into the brain, because whenever I worked on a crap movie, I always knew it was a crap movie. I never thought I was making anything great, and it really feels like some people thought they were making something great with this.
You think
I mean-
it's your big break.
Yeah, but you have that for any movie. Like the horror film that I worked on that got sold as a sequel to a movie that it was not made as. Like that one, like the actors on it, there's two of them who are like, I'm standing around in a house and I'm going to scream a whole bunch, and I get paid for that. Hooray. And the other two thought they were making the new horror film. Like they thought they were making the one that everyone would be like, oh my God, I can't believe I saw that movie. It was so scary. And they were the only 4 actors in the whole movie, and they were totally at odds with each other of just like, you know, we're making something that like 10 people will see.
No
right?
one's ever going to.
That is also my favorite thing that was left out of this movie. Is Greg at one point in the book says, "Yeah, he talks about a particular scene. He's like, I hate my performance in this because I phoned it in because I just thought to myself, no one's going to see this piece of shit."
Yeah.
And now he's like, well, oh well.
Well, everyone has seen this piece of shit. I think we've rounded the drain on it. I
Yeah.
think we should move into quotes.
I don't think I've ever seen you without your glasses on before, Brian.
Yeah,
His
they're getting
eyes
a
are a
little
lot
annoying.
smaller.
Yeah, a very different face.
I don't know if I'm going to take that as an insult or a compliment.
Well, I already know what quote I like the
Go for
most. It's a real Hollywood movie. Every time he said that, I'm just like, oh my God. I remember when I would feel that way in film school. I'd be like, we're making something important, guys.
For all those Columbia people out there, everyone on Practicum, it's a real Hollywood movie.
Yeah,
no, it's
okay.
not.
Oh,
Fuck
Practicum.
off.
We are not making anything important. It is not a real Hollywood movie.
Mine is also, I'm pretty sure we'll have Tommy lines because his lines are just so good. It's when Greg starts hanging out with Allison Brie for the first time, and he has to rush out of the club, and he's so mad, and he just starts screaming and just screams, "Everyone betray me!" And he kicks the newspaper stand. He goes, "Ow, my foot! I hurt my foot."
I have eaten at that restaurant.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we had tacos there.
nice.
It was with the.
I actually have a serious quote. I loved the like you were saying, John, earlier about the actress saying like why she does this.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a quote that really resonates with me and why I love being on set so much. Even the worst day on a movie set is better than the best day anywhere else. I firmly fucking believe that.
I haven't been on a movie set in a long time.
I love
I'm
it. I don't want to be anywhere else. I would rather, even on the worst shit show I've worked on where they had no diet soda, I still was like, I'd rather be here than in an office.
Well,
Any day of the
than
week.
an office, yes.
Yeah. But just about any other job.
I got to the point where I'd have to be working a specific job on a movie set to want to be back on a movie set.
don't know.
If I had to go back as a PA, fuck no.
If
I
somehow I
agree.
got to be like a park ranger and I developed a relationship with a pack of wolves, like that would be
It's a very specific example.
Yeah.
this is
that's
my
true.
job, hanging out with a pack of wolves.
I've only been doing this for about 2 years, so when I've been Seth Rogen's character, maybe I'll feel differently. When I'm ADing, apparently.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have it specifically written down, but when he's in the audition, and like you mentioned it earlier, where he does that version of the American accent, and just the way he turns around, and it's really 100% the delivery. Again, I laughed out loud.
Mine's more of an exchange, but it's actually not a Tommy line. It's when Seth Rogen goes to cash the check and he's talking to the bank teller, and he's like, "What?" He's like, "Do you like movies?" And he goes, "Is it a period piece?" No. He's just like.
And the actor they chose to portray that was like really perfect for that line.
It's real life Google. I love that actor. He's great. All right, so review system today. I'm going to go more for The Room than I am for The Disaster Artist, but it's still to review The Disaster Artist. Horrible movies. Horrible. As bad as you can get.
But since I haven't actually seen The Room, so I don't have any emotional attachment to it, it's hard. I know the movie that I think is the wonderful thing that everyone is like, is horrible.
Go for it.
You know what I'm going to say.
No, I don't.
Super Mario Brothers.
Ugh.
I love that movie. And talk about a disaster of a set with two directors that didn't know what they were doing, constantly changing the script when the entire cast is drunk. Like, that movie is amazing.
That movie almost killed Bob Hoskins.
I know.
Are we naming movies that we hated that are horrible, or movies?
No, movies that you love that are horrible.
I
okay.
love the Mario Brothers movie.
Who would ever argue for that movie? That's crazy.
You argued for it,
And I won.
and you lost. Wait,
No, I
you win?
won.
You won? Okay, I forgot. I'm still mad at Chris for losing with Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, he really bombed that episode.
Oh God.
I feel like we'd had this as a...
We have. That's why it's
Okay, because I think I used Johnny Mnemonic last time.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Can I just use Johnny Mnemonic again?
Well, now that you've admitted you've already used it once, I'm going to say no.
Shit. Then fuck you. I'm gonna use Battleship. I can get around your game.
That actually is a real Hollywood movie.
It's a real Hollywood movie. I love it. I love every minute of it. It's amazing. Chicken burrito. Done.
I'll go with Overdrawn at the Memory Bank, Mystery Science Theater classic.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. I will go with... I've been talking about it all day. I'll just use it now. Story of Ricky. A movie that is so incredibly bad that it's beautiful, much like the
Bet
Disaster
they
Artist.
really thought they were making a epic martial arts film.
Epic martial arts film about people in prison, and it's a rough movie.
Just so you know, guys, if you ever have to cut off your own nerve ending, that movie shows you how to deal with it.
Yeah.
You just tie it in a knot.
Yeah.
You need to be able to use your arm like normal again.
Yeah, it's no problem.
Yeah.
The movie's
It's
amazing.
accurate.
Wow. Did not know.
I'm drawing a
Science
blank on
seems
the name of the
sketchy.
movie. What do I want to do? It was like a...
Tomb Raider.
It was an AI jet that went rogue, and 3 people...
Stealth.
Broken Arrow. Oh.
Stealth, yes.
Stealth. Yes,
And-
it's got
and-
what's her face.
And the story behind it is I was a projectionist in a movie theater when that movie came out, and I was just so delighted with how bad it was and how no one went to see it, and it was just this weird
I haven't even seen it, and I was the one who got the name.
and it was a moment that I was very familiar with watching The Room itself. It's just this idea of this is bad, but I'm kind of laughing at it. That weird line between laughing at it and with it,
Yeah.
and having that same level of fun and glee at just how it's
feel
it's a rough movie.
If you're gonna do a double feature of Stealth with a Deep Blue Sea, that would actually be pretty good.
So just to give you an idea how bad,
It's awesome though.
just to give you an
I'm so
But it's
excited
just
for that sequel.
there's the super plane who's gonna come kill you, and then
Yeah.
you got super
super
sharks
shark.
that are gonna come kill you.
So just to give you an idea how bad the movie was, when one of the showings where there was 2 people in the theater, the film jammed and burned, and we had to fix it. And we're like, well, we'll give you some, tickets for another movie. And we're like, nah, don't worry about it. You didn't slide us any. We're like, really?
You just saved us some time in our lives.
I mean, I'd still take the free tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We've done it. We have talked Disaster Artists. So next week we have an episode coming out. I have no idea what it'll be because I don't know when I'm going to do this one.
Is John alive or dead? It's the Schrodinger's John.
I think we're out. We're out of episodes
out
where
of
I'm
Dead John
Oh,
episode.
okay,
So
all right.
I think he's alive now.
Damn.
Yeah, because we are.
I don't know how to feel about that.
Because Chewie and I are about to die for a few weeks, but we should have enough episodes after this week and next to get us over the break. But we'll see. Time will tell.
If anything, you'll just have some episodes that don't include me,
Yeah, that might happen too.
or I'll be breastfeeding during them,
And the
and
baby
you get to
sit
hear
in
that.
for you.
Yeah. Oh, that would be great. Just to have.
I wonder what breastfeeding would sound like on this mic.
We'll find out. We will bring a mic home and we'll post it as an episode.
Elvis had it right.
It kind of sounded like Audrey too when he wants blood for the
You
first
know,
time.
someone on the internet just got an erection.
Oh,
You're welcome.
And that guy's just going, I don't even know why I have this right now. All right, so a quick round of plugs. These episodes should be out by now. As of this recording, they are not. But we have Venture Bros, the Venture Brothers podcast. We have 4 episodes recorded right now, so they should be releasing every day here, whatever that day is. And I think that's all the extra episodes we have coming out right now. Go on our website, athpod.com, where you'll find both our podcast now and Venture Bros and all the articles I read. You can go back and be one of the 0 people that read my review of all the MCU movies.
I read it twice.
Thanks. So there's half of them.
Yeah. No, sorry, 3 times because there was an edit.
Damn it,
in there.
3/4 of them.
somebody else read it.
Yeah, we got 1.
I'm going to read it.
And then I have another article that I'm working on now that I'm just in the frameworks of, so it might be out by the time this comes out. It might come out after that, but that's why Frisky Dingo is the best show you never watched. And that's it for me. Elvis, anything to plug?
As always, the Tom Hanks Giving podcast, the whole catalog of every Tom Hanks movie that he's ever been in. We discuss. And we have a new episode coming up in June, I believe, because I'm going to go see Hanks perform another Shakespeare play.
Ooh. We're going to get Hanks on that episode?
Maybe. Only way to find out is to listen.
You know, I have a long time.
Yes. Okay. I mean, keep listening, everybody. Beyond that, Twitter and Instagram, Elvis Kaboom.
John, anything to plug?
Not really. I do know that we have our episodes on YouTube as well now. We're putting them on a more regular basis.
Saw that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Nice.
We've had a few people listen to it that way.
Yeah. No, the last one, mine's going blank on it, but I got like 20 views.
It makes it
Nice.
easier to
Ooh.
put it on TV while you're like moving around the apartment. Doing stuff.
Yeah, that's mainly the reason. It was like if there's a way you can just set it and forget it, that's where we want to put it.
I want a pot roast now.
Me too.
Apparently, Emily has not seen the Set It and Forget It infomercial.
I have not.
Yep.
Neither have I.
It would come on around like 2 in the morning back when I was in high school.
Just watch a lot of infomercials. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're awesome.
I just remember all the exercise ones.
All right, this is a hell of an outro. Emily, anything to plug?
Yeah. I, as of this recording, have a lull. I don't have any commissions right now, so it's a good time to get yourself a 13th Doctor coat if you're a cosplayer, and you can get that at my Etsy shop, which is Emily Blake Sews. Or if you want to commission a cosplay from me, anything that's made of fabric, EmilyBlakeSews.com.
Nice. Chewie, anything to plug?
Not really.
Cool.
Parenthood.
At some point, I'm going to lose my plug.
Oh.
And bye.
Bye.